Morning sunlight filtered through the windows of the imposing Goldstein and Associates law firm in downtown Chicago. Miguel Cardoso, 32, moved silently through the luxurious corridors. A naturalized American immigrant from Brazil, he had been working as a night cleaner for 2 years to pay for his studies. What no one knew was that Miguel spent his nights tirelessly studying the law books he found on the attorneys' desks. That morning, Miguel had just finished his shift, but needed to return to retrieve his notebook that he had forgotten under a desk. He wore his worn shirt and simple jeans, contrasting with the refined environment of the office that was now beginning to fill with lawyers in their impeccable suits. Parker Bennett, 42, senior partner at the firm, walked hurriedly down the corridor talking on the phone. Tall, with grey hair at his temples and a gold Rolex on his wrist, he emanated authority and privilege. "Don't worry, I'll handle this case the way I always do. Nobody can defeat me in court." Parker spoke loudly, not caring who might be listening. Turning the corner, Parker collided with Miguel, spilling hot coffee on his own white shirt and document folder. "What the hell? Don't you look where you're going?" Parker shouted, hanging up the phone. The corridor immediately fell silent, with assistants and other lawyers observing the scene. "I'm sorry, sir. It was an accident," Miguel responded, keeping his voice calm while trying to help clean up. "Get your hands off my documents. Do you have any idea what you're holding? This is Richardson versus Midwest Pharmaceuticals, you ignorant fool. Millions of dollars at stake that your simple mind could never comprehend," Parker said with disdain, snatching the papers from Miguel's hands. Miguel quickly noticed the title of the case, a medical negligence lawsuit he had recently studied. His eyes caught an important detail in the documents as Parker pulled them from his hands. "Sir, I believe there's a precedent in Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals versus Thompson that could be relevant to your strategy," Miguel commented politely. Parker froze for a moment, surprised, before letting out a sarcastic laugh. "Oh, so now the janitor thinks he's a lawyer? You can barely clean the floor properly, and you want to give me legal advice?" Parker looked around, encouraging nervous laughter from the assistants surrounding them. "Go back to your mop and bucket, friend. Leave the law to those who actually studied for it." Miguel's face flushed with humiliation, but his eyes remained steady. "Yes, sir," he responded simply, walking away down the corridor as the laughter diminished behind him. On his way out, Miguel crossed paths with Sophia Chen, 38, a public defender who occasionally visited the firm. She had witnessed the entire scene and followed him to the elevator. "Hey, wait!" called Sophia. That was completely unnecessary. Parker Bennett has always been arrogant, but today he outdid himself. "I'm used to it," Miguel shrugged, trying to disguise how deeply the humiliation had affected him. "You mentioned Merrill Dow versus Thompson. How do you know that case?" Sophia asked, genuinely curious. Miguel hesitated, but something in Sophia's sincere expression made him trust her. "I study in my spare time. I want to go to law school someday." "Well, that precedent you mentioned was exactly what he should be considering," Sophia smiled. "I'm Sophia Chen, public defender." "Miguel Cardoso," he shook her extended hand. "Just a janitor. For now." "Maybe not for long," Sophia replied thoughtfully as the elevator doors closed. 3 weeks later, Miguel was cleaning the conference room when he heard raised voices coming from Parker Bennett's office. The door was ajar, and he couldn't help overhearing the discussion. "We don't have time to find another assistant, Parker." "The case goes to trial in 2 weeks," said a voice that Miguel recognized as belonging to Howard Goldstein, the founding partner of the firm. "That incompetent Lawrence jumped ship to work with the prosecutors. Right now, when we need to review thousands of pages of evidence," Parker responded, frustration evident in his voice. "All our associates are overloaded with other cases. We need someone, anyone who can organize documents and do basic research," Howard insisted. Miguel quietly moved away, an idea forming in his mind. The next day, Miguel gathered all his courage and knocked on Howard Goldstein's office door during his lunch break, wearing the best shirt he owned. "Mr. Goldstein, could I speak with you for a moment?" Howard, a 65-year-old man with a stern expression but kind eyes, looked up over his reading glasses. Yes? You're from the cleaning staff, right? Yes, sir. Miguel Cardoso. I heard you need help with the Richardson case, Miguel said, trying to keep his voice steady. Howard frowned. How did you know about that? The walls are thin, Miguel admitted, but I think I can help. I've been studying law on my own for years. I know the procedures, I know how to organize legal documents, and I learn quickly. Howard studied him for a long moment. Do you have any legal training? Not officially, sir, but I read every book I can get my hands on. I follow Supreme Court decisions and, well, I can prove my worth. If you give me a chance. Against all expectations, Howard smiled. You know, my first job was as an office boy in a law firm. Nobody would have bet a cent on me back then. He paused. You'll have to go through Parker, you know that. I'm prepared for that, sir. An hour later, Miguel was sitting nervously in the main conference room, with Howard and Parker across from him. This is absurd, Howard. A janitor? Parker was indignant. He'll be paid for the trial period as a temporary assistant. No additional cost to the firm beyond what we'd already pay for any last-minute replacement, Howard replied calmly. And you yourself said we need someone just to organize papers. Parker turned to Miguel with obvious contempt. Fine, let's do a little test then. Explain to me the concept of negligence as established in Palsgraf versus Long Island Railroad and how it would apply to our case. Miguel took a deep breath and began speaking with surprising clarity. For 5 minutes, he detailed the historical precedent, citing specifics of the 1928 case and drawing precise parallels with the current case. Howard smiled with satisfaction, while Parker's expression alternated between disbelief and irritation. Who taught you that? Parker demanded. No one, sir. I taught myself. I read the law books during my night shift after I finished cleaning, and I have a good memory. Howard clapped decisively. It's settled then. Miguel, you're hired as a temporary assistant for the Richardson case. Parker, he reports directly to you. Parker adjusted his tie, visibly displeased. First rule, you do exactly what I tell you, nothing more. And if you make a single mistake, you're back to your mop. Understood? Perfectly, sir, Miguel responded, containing a smile. The following days were exhausting. Miguel worked his regular cleaning shift at night and dedicated his days to the Richardson case. He slept only 4 hours a day, but the opportunity was worth every minute of lost sleep. Claire Richardson had lost her husband, Robert, after an adverse reaction to a medication from Midwest Pharmaceuticals. The company argued that all necessary warnings were included in the package insert, exempting them from any liability. Parker was defending the pharmaceutical company. Miguel was assigned the most tedious task, reviewing thousands of corporate emails and internal memos that the company was obligated to provide during the discovery phase. On his third day, while chronologically organizing documents in a small, stuffy room, Miguel came across something strange. An email exchanged between two company executives mentioning problematic results from a clinical trial dated 6 months before the drug's release. Intrigued, Miguel continued digging deeper, connecting seemingly unrelated documents. After hours of meticulous investigation, he assembled a disturbing picture. The company had concealed test results that demonstrated significant risks for patients with the specific condition that Robert Richardson had. Eagerly, Miguel prepared a detailed report and headed to Parker's room to share his discovery. As he approached, he heard Parker talking on the phone. Yes, we're almost closing the deal. We'll be able to reduce the compensation to less than half of what they're asking for. The widow has no idea what's coming. Miguel hesitated at the door, his enthusiasm diminishing. He knocked softly. What is it now? Parker asked irritably, motioning for Miguel to enter. Mr. Bennett, I found something in the discovery documents that I think you should see, Miguel said, extending his folder. Parker reluctantly took the papers, quickly flipping through them. As he read, his expression changed from annoyance to concern. Where did you find this? He finally asked. It was scattered across different folders, sir. I had to connect the information. It seems that Midwest knew about the specific risks for patients like Mr. Richardson. Parker was silent for a moment, then smiled calculatingly. Good work, Miguel. Really, this is significant. We're going to inform the judge, right? This completely changes the case. Mrs. Richardson deserves to know the truth, Miguel said. Parker laughed softly. Oh, Miguel, you really don't understand how this works, do you? Our duty is to protect our client. Midwest pays us very well to keep exactly this kind of information away from the courtroom. But that's wrong and possibly illegal, Miguel protested, feeling a knot in his stomach. This is how the game is played in big firms, kid. Welcome to the real world of corporate law. Parker took the documents and put them in his drawer, locking it. I'll handle this. You've done your job, now go back to organizing the other documents. And this, he pointed to the drawer, never existed. Understood? Miguel left the office feeling sick. In the corridor, he ran into Sophia Chen, who had come to deal with another matter. Miguel, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. After a moment of hesitation, Miguel told Sophia everything at a nearby cafe. She listened attentively, her expression becoming more serious with each detail. What Parker is doing is unethical and potentially criminal, Sophia explained. He has a duty to disclose material evidence. But you're in a delicate position, Miguel. If you expose this, your legal career will be over before it even begins. What career? I'm just a janitor who got a chance, Miguel said bitterly. No, you're much more than that, Sophia responded with conviction. And now, you have a choice to make. The Chicago Federal Courthouse commanded respect with its neoclassical architecture and solemn atmosphere. On the morning of the trial, Miguel sat in the last row of the public gallery, watching Parker Bennett in his perfectly tailored suit preparing documents at the defense table. Claire Richardson, a 40-year-old woman with eyes tired from crying, sat next to her attorney, James Williams, a competent professional but overloaded with other cases. Judge Samuel Harrington, known for his rigorous impartiality, entered the room and the trial began. For hours, Miguel watched Parker's masterful performance, painting Midwest Pharmaceuticals as a responsible company and Robert Richardson's death as a tragic accident impossible to predict. During the lunch break, Miguel gathered all his courage and approached James Williams in the hallway. Mr. Williams, can I speak with you privately? It's about the Richardson case. Williams, assuming Miguel was part of Parker's team, followed him to an empty room. What do you want? Asked Williams, checking his watch. My name is Miguel Cardoso. I worked as a temporary assistant at Goldstein & Associates. Miguel took a deep breath. There is evidence that hasn't been disclosed in this case. Evidence that proves Midwest knew about the risks for patients with Mr. Richardson's condition. Williams narrowed his eyes, suspicious. Why are you telling me this? Is this some kind of trap? No, sir. It's the right thing to do. Miguel handed Williams an envelope. These are copies of the documents I found. The originals are locked in Parker Bennett's office. Williams examined the papers, his face showing gradual understanding of the gravity of what he was seeing. You understand what you're doing? You're risking your career. So be it, Miguel responded simply. When the afternoon session began, Williams asked to speak. Your Honor, new evidence has emerged that needs to be considered by the court. I have reason to believe that the defense is concealing critical documents that were legally requested during the discovery phase. Parker rose furiously. This is absurd, Your Honor. The defense has fulfilled all its obligations. Judge Harrington adjusted his glasses. Mr. Williams, these are serious accusations. Do you have any basis for them? Yes, Your Honor. Williams handed the documents to the court officer. And I request that the court issue an immediate warrant to seize the original documents that are in Mr. Bennett's office. Parker's face paled when he saw what Williams was holding. His eyes scanned the room until they found Miguel in the gallery. Recognition, then fury crossed his face. "Order in the court!" Judge Harrington banged his gavel when Parker began to protest. After examining the documents, the judge fixed Parker with a stern look. "Mr. Bennett, I am deeply disturbed by what I see here. I will order a full investigation into this matter. Meanwhile, this court will recess until tomorrow, when I will decide on the requested warrant." In the chaos that followed, Parker confronted Miguel outside the courtroom. "You've ruined your life. You know that? You'll never work in any law firm in this city again." "Maybe not," Miguel responded calmly. "But I can live with myself." "Can you say the same?" Sophia, who had been present in the courtroom, approached them. "Actually, Parker, it's more likely that you'll be the one facing problems with the Bar Association. Violation of the Code of Ethics, obstruction of justice, the list is long." "Nobody will believe a janitor over me," Parker hissed. "They'll believe me," said a voice behind them. It was Howard Goldstein, who had been alerted about the situation. "I paid a surprise visit to your office, Parker. The drawer wasn't as well locked as you thought." 3 months later, Miguel crossed the Northwestern Law School campus, where a special scholarship had been established for him after the story had become public. Parker Bennett was facing disciplinary proceedings, and Midwest Pharmaceuticals had agreed to a historic settlement with Claire Richardson. "Professor Cardoso!" called a familiar voice. It was Sophia, who now divided her time between public defense and teaching legal ethics as an adjunct professor. "I'm not a professor yet," Miguel smiled. "I'm just a freshman." "A freshman who already has an internship offer for next summer," Sophia corrected. "Howard asked me to tell you that the position is guaranteed in his new Department of Legal Research and Corporate Responsibility." "Do you think I made the right choice?" Miguel asked as they walked. "You made the only possible choice for someone who truly understands what justice means," Sophia replied. Miguel looked at the law school building ahead of him, knowing that his path would be difficult, but that he was finally heading in the right direction. "Justice," he repeated. "That's what we're here for, isn't it?" "Exactly," Sophia smiled. "That's what we're here for."